Good day, everyone. So Zabai has released, and the question we have to answer today is, how well does she work with Kokomi? So this is a unit that I've been anticipating for quite a while, and ever since Columbus released, I told you, hey, we need to do a double hydro with Kokomi, Columbina, Navia, and Zabai. And then when I started playing with Zabai, I was like, maybe because she's got such an on-field presence, Navia doesn't really fit the flow as well as I think Goro does. So that's what I ended up settling with. So today we're going to be taking the usual little cocoa fish that I love so much, Columbina and Zibai both at Constellation Zero, and see just what kind of fun we can have in the Spiral Abyss. Now, a couple of things to note about Zibai is that you want her to be on field. So in this case, I do a bit of a simple setup. I get all the buffs I need from Goro. I get the, what do you call it, a bit of like healing and a bit of help with triggering the crystallized reactions from Kokomi. And then obviously we get the Columbina buffs as well. And effectively, as you can see, Zibai herself can cycle through all of the perpetual mechanical array's health. It's pretty cool. So the way her skill works is you've got to accumulate points. Now, one of the big ways to accumulate points is to trigger a lunar crystallized reaction. So basically she gets 100 points in total, and if you trigger a lunar crystallized reaction, then every 4 seconds you restore 40 points. If you hit the enemy with a normal attack, you I think gain 5 points per 0.5 seconds, and there's another way as well to get 10 points. But basically it's not that difficult. You just stand there, you hit the enemy, and then you can release her elemental skill up to 4 times, provided you've got over 70 points or as indicated on the screen. And effectively what this means is that once you unleash your elemental skill, you do 2 hits of geo damage. The first one is just a normal geo hit, and the second one is that big juicy lunar crystallized reaction damage, which is really powerful. So this is why having Columbus and her in the team also increases like the moon sign gleam thingamabob, and that allows you to do a lot more damage. So that's kind of the basic gist of this team. Now the cool thing is, because she's a defense scaling unit, her defenses are high. Goro increases that, and I think Goro heals at Constellation 6. I can't remember all the specifics. Kokomi certainly helps keep the team very comfy, provides a bit of extra like hydro particles as well for Columbus there, and generally speaking this team is so comfy to pilot. You've got survivability, you've also got a lot of flexibility when it comes to moving around on the battlefield. So let's say the enemy stash off, well, you've got Columbus's hydro that follows you. With Kokomi you can always just use sacrificial fragments, you reposition the jellyfish, it's not that difficult. And this team as well is much more elemental skill focused, so even against enemies, like you can see in the background, that constantly drain your elemental burst and so on, you really aren't that reliant on Zabai's elemental burst. It's just there for a bit of extra DPS, and of course you don't lose any uptime on your E because you gain 1.7 seconds back if you use her elemental burst. So that is pretty much what I can say about the character and the team. It's very comfy, it's very fluid, it's very flexible, and I think whilst it's not going to be the most meta team for Zabai, whilst it's not going to set any clearing records or beat Stygian Onslaught on dire mode at Constellation Zero, it is pretty fun for the average person to play. It's a pretty easy team to get into, and yeah, that is just what I wanted to share. When it comes to Zabai herself, I just want to talk a bit about the character's design. To be quite honest, I find it to be very pretty. I think she looks really good. In fact, I think all of the Leeway ladies like Ganyu, Shanyun, Shenhe, all of them look really fancy and elegant, and you can definitely tell Hoyo puts in a lot of effort in giving them a very much a thematic, almost Chinese, well, it is Leeway, it's kind of connected to China, but very much a thematic Chinese type of look to it. It's very beautiful, very elegant. So from a looks perspective, I can't complain. She certainly is a bit more covered up than Columbus and Loma from the Nordkrai region, so that's definitely nice to see a bit of a break from just the usual fan service that we get, although Hoyo does seem to like their ladies and boots, so you can tell there is still a bit of a restrictiveness in terms of the design. I think some of the criticisms that one of my friends has kind of like put out is that the design might be a bit safe in a certain sense, but look, I find it to be pretty cool. I do think that the one thing that gets a bit tiring is this whole meter on the side. I think Hoyo made a bit of a joke. They said, you know, we always put in like combat rings, like Columbina's ring, Raiden's ring, Marika's ring, everyone's ring. And in this case, like with Zibai, you also get like the little meter on the side. So yeah, Hoyo, it would be interesting if they can somehow break this and introduce something new, but honestly, I don't really find it to be that offensive. It is certainly easy to look at and play with and maneuver around and keep track of when you're playing with in combat, because typically you're looking at where the character is on the field, and then you're also looking at your abilities and cooldowns. So that's generally, it's pretty much a comfortable placement for gauging her ability and her points. So I think that formula has been perfected with Natlan. Alright, so we've talked about all the visual designs, all the elements. I'm very curious to see what the umbrella thing is all about that we had with her, although I'm not a fan that utility in the game might be gatekept behind the unit, but other than that, look, I think the unit is a solid 8 out of 10. Right, thank you for watching.